Hello everyone! In today's video, we're gonna deep dive into a chilling story that shook the small town of Erba in Italy, the Erba Massacre. What makes this case even more shocking is the alleged involvement of two innocent individuals as the perpetrators of this heinous crime. Erba, a mid-sized town between Como and Lecco in northern Italy, that was the setting for this horrifying crime on December 11, 2006. 4 people were brutally slaughtered and murdered in their apartment. Raffaella Castagna, 2-year-old son Youssef, Raffaella's mother Paola Galli, and their neighbor Valeria Cherubini. The apartment was then set on fire in an attempt to destroy the evidence. Miraculously, Valeria's husband, Mario Friggero, emerged as the sole survivor of this tragedy. Even though he sustained life-threatening injuries, he eventually became the only witness of this harrowing tragedy. Raffaella Castagna, married to Aziz Marzouk, were both living with their 2-year-old son in Diaz Street in Erba. Unfortunately, the domestic setting that should have been a heaven became a stage for a horrific tragedy. Raffaella's relationships were quite complex, especially with her parents. It was widely known that her relationship with Aziz Marzouk was not well received by her family. The exception was with her mother, Paola Galli, that seemed to be more accepting of their union. In fact, on the night of the tragic event, Paola Galli was present at Raffaella's apartment, only to become part of the victims. Aziz Marzouk, Raffaella's husband, carried a troubled past marked by involvement in drug trafficking, leading to multiple incarcerations. His recurrent brushes with the law painted a complex backdrop to the narrative of the Erba tragedy. At this point, Aziz Marzouk found himself thrust into the spotlight as the primary suspect. The police, unable to locate him either within the apartment or in town, they started intensifying their search for Marzouk. However, a careful investigation rapidly unveiled a crucial detail. Aziz Marzouk was in Tunisia in the days leading up to the tragedy. Contrary to suspicions, Marzouk had been miles away from the scene and returned to Italy only after being notified by the horrendous event that transpired in his absence. The alibi solidified his innocence, redirecting focus away from Marzouk and prompting a re-evaluation of the true perpetrators of the Erba Massacre. As you remember, Mario Friggero was the only one to escape death, and he became the only and the key witness in this investigation. Mario Friggero, speaking to investigator Gallerini, he bravely recounted the events of that tragic night and provided a crucial identity kit of the assailant. Friggero described one of his attackers as a tall male with brown skin and dark thick hair.
Era bianco di carnagione. Ma nero.
Strikingly, he emphasized that the person resembled to someone coming from North Africa or to someone who did not appear to be Italian. Despite Mario Friggero's description and initial leads, somehow investigators' attention shifted toward the neighboring couple Olindo Romano and Rosa Bazzi, who lived on the first floor of the complex building. It appears to be an ongoing discord between Romano's couple and Marzouk's couple, and that basically became the focal point of interest of the whole investigation. The strife basically revolved around issues like loud music, late night parties. For investigators, the tension between the two couples escalated to a point that culminates into a horrifying act of violence. Confirming investigators' suspicions, Mario Friggero played a crucial role in the evolving narrative. In a second visit to the hospital, investigator Gallerini managed to glean additional details about the suspect. During this second encounter, Friggero underwent a significant shift in his description, redirecting investigators toward a new suspect. This time, with no doubt, Friggero pointed his finger at Olindo Romano as one of his assailants. This development intensified the focus on Olindo Romano and Rosa Bazzi as a suspect. And obviously, Mario Friggero's last statement became the key element in this case against them. Despite an exhaustive examination by the forensic police of both the crime scene and Olindo Rosa's apartment, no conclusive DNA or evidence linking the couple to the massacre could be found. However, the investigation took a significant turn when traces of victims' blood were discovered in Olindo's car. This discovery injected a new momentum to the case, and for now, investigators all focus are on Olindo and Rosa. Even after all these evidences, Olindo Romano and Rosa Bazzi maintain their innocence. They even claim to be far away from the crime scene when the horrific events happened. And to prove their innocence, they provided a McDonald's receipt to show that they were far away from the scene and they were having dinner at McDonald's. However, persisting interrogation and unwavering determination of investigators led to a confession. So now with a motive, with an eyewitness, with a DNA evidence that linked them to the crime scene, and a chilling confession, we could say that the case can be closed. But yet, this is where the story takes a complex and unclear turn. So there are some doubts about all the evidences that has been collected by the investigators. Mario Frigerio in his initial account described a complete different person from Olindo Romano, mentioning that he had never seen this person before. Obviously, Olindo Romano lived in the same building as Mario Frigerio, and they know each other very well. So why he didn't recognize him from the first interrogation? And why only in the second interrogation then he mentioned Olindo Romano? This discrepancy raises questions about the accuracy of his identification. Further questions arise about the Gallerini's second visit to Frigerio. In the hospital room where Frigerio was recovering, there were some hidden voice recordings, and the recordings reveal some questionable dynamic. In the first and second interrogation, Frigerio never mentioned Olindo Romano as a suspect or as one of his possible attackers. But investigator Gallerini, in a series of leading questions, he repeatedly mentioned the name Olindo Romano. So the first person to mention Olindo Romano was not Frigerio but was the investigator Gallerini. And exactly, he mentioned the name of Olindo Romano 9 times. So this persistent focus on Olindo Romano introduces a potential element of influence, as Frigerio was repeatedly prompt to consider Olindo Romano as a potential suspect. Such a practice in an interview, particularly if the witness is recovering from a trauma, carries the risk of influencing the memory and the perception of events. Someone who had already lived a trauma experience is easily influenced and induced to place Olindo Romano at the crime scene. The presence of a really small quantity of blood trace in Olindo's car, and it's not even inside of the car but at the skirting board of the car, raises some questions. Considering the nature of the brutal crime, how a regular couple managed to clean all the evidences and didn't leave any single DNA trace in the crime scene, at their apartment, or on their clothes. It is indeed implausible that a crime of such magnitude, involving a struggle and a bloodshed, would leave no genetic markers within the crime scene or on the alleged perpetrators. The lack of DNA evidence on the victims in particular challenges the narrative presented by the prosecution. Moreover, there is suspicion that the lone blood trace found on Olindo's car might be a result of a scene contamination. It appears that one of the forensic officers who had been in the crime scene transferred the blood trace into Olindo's car by mistake. The circumstances surrounding the confessions of Olindo Romano and Rosa Bazzi cast serious doubts on the reliability of their statements. The use of emotionally charged and threatening tactics, such as the prospect of a separation, can unduly influence individuals, especially when dealing with a deeply attached couple like Romano and Bazzi. The fear of being torn apart, coupled with their lack of experience in such situations, might have prompted them to confess, hoping for a shorter sentence and the possibility of reuniting sooner. The request for a shared cell in exchange of their confessions suggests how they've been really vulnerable and how they were really desperate just to be close to each other. That also showed their mental state during the interrogation. The inconsistencies within their statements and the numerous errors that doesn't align with the crime scene highlight the unreliability of their statements. And furthermore, they've been provided by images of the crime scene by investigators. Usually, for a confession to be deemed reliable, it should be obtained through questioning techniques that minimized external influence. The heavy use of crime scenes pictures introduced a new variable here. That means when the couple was not able to answer question, they've been inspired by the pictures. Even after all the discrepancies that we mentioned before, Olindo Romano and Rosa Bazzi found themselves sentenced to life in prison on November 26, 2008. Hope you guys enjoyed my video. Please let me know what you think about this story in the comments below. See you soon and stay curious.